And welcome back to All Access with the Profs as we move to Rowan Roundtable. I'm Rob Cunningham, joined by John Simmons and Kevin Kuntzman. Guys, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Not a problem.
We're going to talk Rowan football today. Big win last week against Montclair State. Now 4-0 in the conference, 5-1 overall. And they snapped that 6-game losing streak against Montclair State on the road. Big win over then. And this 3-game stretch here that we knew was going to be difficult. They got 2 down. They got 1 to go against Courtland. Big win last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a big win, like you said. They won 33-7, first win in 6 years against them. So I mean, it's good for them to maintain that, undefeated in the conference. That's what they need to do, especially if they want to make a push for the conference title. But like you said, Courtland's the big game coming up. So,
and you have to talk about kind of maybe an asterisk next to this game last week because Montclair was banged up. They didn't have A.J. Scopa, their top running back, who has pretty much been all their offense so far this year. They had key injuries on defense. Clario Sampson, their cornerback, and Dan Avento, preseason All-American, the linebacker, were out. But the Profs had injuries too.
Yes, definitely. You've had Matt Dortch, who's been out for most of the season with a banged-up ankle. He's been coming in and out. He's been wildly inconsistent. If you're having a starting running back that's coming in and out, and you can still compensate with someone like Keith Corcoran, you're looking good. So that's definitely speaking to the Profs' strength in definitely their depth.
Yeah, I know you said that there should be an asterisk on it, but a win's a win is a win. And I'm sure Coach Corsi will be the first one to tell you that. Just like he's not making any excuses for the one loss on the season. So.
Now, Kevin, you mentioned the injuries to Matt Dortch. He didn't play in the Brockport game. Only had 2 carries against Montclair this past week. Ed Eisenhart, who looked to be back in good shape, had a great first half, but left late in that first half against Montclair. Looked to re-aggravate that ankle injury, didn't return, and then Chris Alvarez, a great defensive lineman for the Profs, left the game, was on crutches afterwards. So are you concerned with the injuries heading into this game next week?
Well, you certainly got to like that they're coming off a bye week, especially going into the biggest game of the season. That's definitely a comforting thought. The last I talked to Eisenhart, he'd been saying it's nothing to worry about. He's very reassuring, and the numbers show he's averaging a touchdown per game so far for the Profs, just as a sophomore. So he's going to be playing. You know that if Dortch is needed, he's going to be in there. You know that Alvarez can be compensated. They have the poppers. They have Steve Williams on the line. They have a great blitz. They have a great stunt package. They can be compensated for, but if they're needed, they'll definitely be in.
I think the big thing to focus on is that we do have the bye week to rest up and get these guys healthy. Sit out of practice for a week if you have to, and then get back to work next week. And the bye week is going to play a big factor in us going down to Courtland and trying to win in their home turf too. So
absolutely, this bye week is in the perfect spot. I said, if you asked Coach Corsi before the season, where do you want to put your bye week, he would have picked this week probably right before this big game against Courtland because both teams undefeated in the conference, and that kind of brings us to our next question here. This game on the road at Courtland, both teams undefeated. Kane is also still unbeaten in the conference. They're ways down the road. But do you think this game is the make or break game for the Profs in terms of winning the conference?
Absolutely. Their mantra has been this entire year since last year's break was finish every game. They're trying to finish strong, and especially at the stretch here. Last year they went 1-5 in games decided by less than 7 points. So you're going to have a close game here. What you've seen from the 2012 Profs so far is a strong team that refuses to finish, that refuses to settle for how they've been playing, and I certainly think that they can have a good chance here.
Yeah, I completely agree that this game, it's a big game, but not only this game, the next couple weeks, like you said, Keene's down the road, and Rowan, Courtland, and Keene, they're 1, 2, and 3 in the conference right now, so this next, and all 3 of the teams have yet to play each other, so I mean this next 3-4 weeks could decide the whole conference, not just this week, although this week is sure going to play a big part in it, or this upcoming game, rather. Yeah.
Absolutely. We talked about the 3-game stretch here for the Profs. Courtland's in a bit of a tough stretch themselves. They were at TCNJ this past week. They have Brockport at home during the week that Rowan's off here, and then they have the Profs at home, and then at Kane. So it was a very tough stretch for them as well, right in the middle of the season. And so I'm not entirely sure if the Profs lose this game that they can't come back because Kane is going to be a tough matchup for Courtland as well. And, of course, the Profs have Kane down the road that they have to face also.
It's a lot of top offenses in the NJAC right now, and you saw that with Courtland with their last run. You saw with us, we are able to distill teams like Brockport. We are able to silence that kind of attack. And I really think that's our advantage right now. We're averaging only 8.5 points. Our NJAC opponents are only averaging 8.5 points against us per game. And I think that's definitely going to be the biggest standout at the end of the season as to where Rowan finishes.
Like you said too, just the offenses in the conference. I mean, Keene, people might be kind of sleeping on them just because they have 2 losses on the season already. But their past 2 games, they've put up 50 plus points in both those games, and they are the defending champs. They are the defending conference champs. So I mean, people got to look out for them. You can't take them lightly, which I'm sure Rowan and Courtland and no one will. But it's you got to think that with this game coming up, that Keene's got to kind of be on the back burner, in your mind, on the back burner there.
Absolutely. Both their losses out of conference, one of them to Mary Hardin Baylor, who's a top 10 team on the road. So certainly not, they get a free pass on that one.
They've responded well from starting the season, 0-2, and come back and win their next 3, and so they've done a good job of keeping their momentum going after those first 2 losses of the season.
Absolutely. And we'll take a look at that Courtland game. Like you said, coming off the bye week, it's going to be a tough matchup. Of course, we still have to see what Courtland does against Brockport this week. What do you expect out of that game next week against Courtland?
I'm definitely hoping, obviously, for a Rowan win, but I definitely going to have a tightly contested game, and we've shown this year that tightly contested games are, our best, our foray, I guess you could say. If I would go with a score, I would go with maybe 23-14 Rowan.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty tight game as well. What I'm looking forward into is the battle between the 2 quarterbacks, two senior quarterbacks, especially in the conference this year. There were a lot of freshman quarterbacks. With TCNJ had a freshman quarterback, and there were a couple other teams I can't think of off the top of my head that had freshman quarterbacks coming in. So I mean, these are two senior, 2 experienced quarterbacks. They're not going to get fooled by any schemes or zone coverages that they're going to throw at them. So it's going to be interesting to see them 2 go at it. I do think that the defenses are going to both play very well. I don't think it's going to be too high of a scoring game. If I were to put a score on it, I would probably say 17-14, and I'm going with Rowan.
And Courtland is averaging 44 points per game. So the Profs, they need to get their guys back from injuries. And, Chris Rose for Courtland, the quarterback, 13 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in his 5 games. So if you get some pressure on him, he can turn over the football, so you get pressure on him. And I'm going to go, I think this is the game that the Profs are going to fall out with Courtland. I mean, they're due for a loss.
Could go either way.
It's going to be a very close game, especially since the Profs are coming off the byes. But I think Courtland can pull it out at home. Thank you, Kevin and John, for coming on. And we're going to move to Athlete of the Week now. Our female Athlete of the Week is Morgan Mendy. She guided the women's volleyball team to a 4-0 week in a 3-0 win at Rutgers Camden. She posted 5 kills and 5 blocks. Mendy tallied 12 kills in a 3-1 victory over Hunter College and had a team-high 11 kills in Rowan's 3-0 shutout against Wesley College. In a 3-2 win versus Delaware Valley College, Mendy collected 12 kills and 4 blocks. She was chosen the NJAC Rookie of the Week and has 14.5 kills and 32 kills this season. Our male Athlete of the Week is Christian Fountain, who had a big week for the men's soccer team, totaling 9 points with 4 goals and 1 assist. At Haverford College, Fountain scored 1 goal. He found the net once versus La Sierra University. Fountain registered 2 goals and 1 assist at the University of California, Santa Cruz. For his performance, he was selected the New Jersey Athletic Conference Offensive Player of the Week. He is currently 5th in the conference in points with 19 and tied for 5th in goals with 8. And that does it this week for All Access with the Profs. I'm Rob Cunningham with Kevin Kunzman and John Simmons. Have a great week.